By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and the one who had received the promises was offering up his only son. It was he to whom it was said, through Isaac your descendants shall be named. Let's jump down to verse 20. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau. By faith, Jacob, I'm skipping now, by faith, Joseph. So yet they are not in the physical promised land still, because we have gone from Abraham, we have gone to Isaac, we have gone to Jacob and Esau, we have gone to Joseph. Now we are into the 12 tribes, because Joseph was one of the tribes, one of the sons of Israel. By faith, Moses, when he was born, so we're down to Moses now, still not into the promised land. By faith, Moses, go all the way down. By faith, they passed through. So now we are into Israel. We are into the 12 tribes of Israel, passing through the Red Sea. And by faith, the walls of Jericho. So now they are on the border of the promised land. Remember, the first city they had to conquer before they entered the promised land was Jericho. And so we had Rahab coming into the picture. And what more shall I say? Verse 32 now, again, hold on to your chair again. Hold on to your chair again. What more shall I say? For the time will fail if I tell of Gideon. So, okay, now we are in the promised land now. Because Gideon was in the promised land. Barak was in the promised land. Samson was in the promised land. Jephthah was in the promised land. David was in the promised land. Samuel and the prophets were in the promised land. But look what it says. Who by faith conquered kingdoms, performed acts of righteousness, obtained promises, shut the mouth of lions, etc., etc., quenched the power of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, from weaknesses were made strong, became mighty in war, put foreign armies to flight. Let's jump down all the way down to verse 39. And all these, Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, David, Jephthah, Samson, Gideon, the children of Israel, all these, having gained approval through their faith, did not receive what was promised, because God had provided something better for us. So now the us there are the Hebrew Christians to whom this letter is addressed to, the letter to the Hebrews. So the Hebrew, the physical line, the physical descendants of Israel in Christ are the us there. God having provided something better for us and all those other Israelites in the hall of faith, so that apart from us, they would not be made perfect. All of them had to be gathered together in the us, gathered together into that heavenly city, which was the New Jerusalem. So that means that the real promised land was not the dirt and the grass of Canaan, was not the dirt and the grass of Palestine. Now, consider this. Let's look at something else before I continue here, right? Because in Joshua chapter 21, and you can only understand this if you realize the typological and allegorical nature of the old covenant world. Joshua 21 verse 43. Look what the testimony is in the book of Joshua. Because remember, Joshua was the one who succeeded Moses and took the second generation of Israel out of Egypt. The first generation died in the wilderness. That's the first generation of Israel out of Egypt, not the first generation of Israel ever. Okay? Because remember, they had about 10 generations in Egypt, 400 years there, right? But those who left Egypt, that first generation died in the wilderness, leaving only Caleb and Joshua. Joshua now was the one who took the second generation of the wilderness Israelites into the promised land. And look what the testimony was there. It says, so the Lord gave Israel all the land. The Lord gave Israel all the land which he had sworn to give their fathers, and they took possession of it and lived in it. So there was a physical land promise which God fulfilled to the generation of Joshua. And the Lord gave them rest on every side, in accordance with everything that he had sworn to their fathers, and no one of all their enemies stood before them. The Lord handed all their enemies over to them. Verse 45, not one of the good promises which the Lord had made to the house of Israel failed. Everything came to pass. So again, you remember I talked about the typological and the real? Yeah, Israel came into the promised land, the physical dirt and grass promised land, in fulfillment to what God promised their forefathers. Yes, just like Isaac was a seed promised to Abraham, and he was born. When he was born, he was the promised seed. But at the same time, Isaac was the type of the promised seed in whom all nations would be blessed. The land that Israel received and was given and fulfilled the promise to them, that land was also a type. It was typological of the promised land, which the nations would receive, and even the descendants of Israel would receive in Christ. That is why you could go over to Hebrews and it would tell you none of these people received the promises. Because why? This is now talking about the spiritual fulfillment, the real land. Now, in our eyes, the physical is the real. But according to Paul, the physical is the temporary. He says, we do not look at the things which can be seen, for the things which can be seen are temporary. It is the things which cannot be seen, like what? The New Jerusalem. You can't see that. You can't see the New Jerusalem because it's a spiritual kingdom. And carnal people cannot attack what they cannot see. So the New Jerusalem cannot come under attack by carnal men, because why? It's a spiritual kingdom. So this means again that the land promise, the dirt and grass land promise, was temporal, and it was fulfilled to biological Israel, as we read here in Joshua. That was fulfilled. Nobody is to say that, hey, God still have to give Israel physical land. No, that was done already. And then God says, I know they're going to break their promise. So by breaking their promise, they have given up the land in any case. But that land promise was temporal, fulfilled to biological Israel, which was typological of the true land promised to Abraham. As we read, when we go back in Hebrews chapter 11, it already gave it away, where it says Abraham was not looking for a land which had material things. It says, but as it is, they desired a better country, a heavenly one, a spiritual one. So God prepared that city for them.